Welcome to my first ever book review video on Cozy Reads with Sarah. I'm Sarah, and my first video will be discussing the oh so lovely It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I do not have a physical copy of the book. I had bought it for very cheap on Chirp, which Chirp is amazing. They have amazing deals on audiobooks. I am not sponsored by them. I'm just saying. And then the second book is The September House. I absolutely love The September House. That's Carissa Orlando. I rated It Ends With Us 1 star, and the only reason I finished the book was because it's a book that I purchased. Even though I only paid a couple dollars for it, I still purchased it. So if it's a book that I've purchased, whether it's an Audible or audiobook or Kindle or a physical book, I try to read it. Library books, I do DNF from time to time. So It Ends With Us is a 1-star review, and The September House is a 5-star review. These stories are literally the same story. It's just in different time frames of a person's life. So we'll start with It Ends With Us, as that's the first book I read. And this is about Lily and Ryle, and it's really about Lily's story about her growing up, and there's a story with her first love, Atlas. Now, the names right away just annoy the heck out of me. Ryle, Atlas, come on. And Lily, I forgot what her Lily's middle name is, but it's Lily, it's Lily Blossom, Blooms, something like that. Ridiculous names. I was just not feeling the names, and I kind of wish that Hoover had just focused the story on Lily and maybe her, going back to her father's funeral and rereading her journals about her time with Atlas, because that story was actually interesting. If I was basing the book off of just that story, I would have maybe given it 2.5, 3 stars, because it was actually interesting. What I had a problem with was the portrayal of Lily and Ryle's relationship. They meet one time and he's weird. He acts very weird and off-putting. And if a man acted like that to me, I'd be like, oh, I never want to run into him again. Again, it's that whole 50 Shades of Grey situation where if he wasn't rich, that behavior would not fly. Again, it comes down to class, and it's just his behavior gave me the ick. Lily is very naive. I know she's only 23, but she's super, super naive. When we're seeing about her as a teenager, it's understandable. And she has a very traumatic childhood. And it's interesting that she goes from being like, I'll never let that happen to me, to she lets it happen to her. And she marries the guy. I just really had problems with Lily and even Atlas's relationship, because she's a child and she's rescuing, she's saving this guy. Yes, that's a great deed that she did, but that relationship also kind of felt a little ugh to me as well. I mean, he was 18, she wasn't 18 yet, and she's helping this guy out. He's an adult. Legally, he's an adult, and she's sneaking him in her room, and it's, it puts her in a really bad situation with a very scary alcoholic father who is very mean and is known to be abusive. And throughout the book, up until a certain point, he doesn't hit, let me say this so I don't get censored, he doesn't lay hands on Lily until a certain point, and then he does. Then when we fast forward to Lily and Atlas, like, there's a time jump, which is a little jarring, and just the wish fulfillment of the story, it's just a little silly, like, oh, her father dies, and then all these things just fall into place, and and her and her mom now just get along. Like, there's a lot of resentment when you grow up in a household where your mother did not stand up for herself or protect the children in the household from the abuse. So for her to just be like, yeah, I'm an adult now, but I'm going to let my mom, be my neighbor or move near me. Like, I don't know. I understand that Lily does not have any boundaries, as we see with her relationship with Ryle. She is very much trained, which we don't see that in the story, but I mean, it's implied that she's trained like every other good girl in the United States, at least, to be a people pleaser, to take care of people, to not even worry about your own needs or safety. It's always about other people, especially men. And that Ryle is a red flag, like I said from the beginning. He's being inappropriate. He's saying really cringe, disgusting things. She's already said, I'm not that type of girl. Like, I don't just sleep with guys on the first date or the first time meeting. I'm not a one night stand kind of woman. Like, it's just disgusting. And he keeps kind of like, every time he runs into her, saying these things, propositioning her to sleep with him right away. And she's already set her boundary. And when they finally, because it's a Hoover book and it's considered romance, when they finally hook up, it's so disgusting. It is so heteronormative, and it's just like kissing and then they're doing it, and it's like amazing. It's like the best. It's the best she's ever had. And she knew that the minute he slept with her, he was just going to be so addicted. This commitment phobic, narcissistic, damaged man is just gonna fall. He's gonna be whipped, basically, just from one time, because she's just so magical and she's so addictive, and she really is a kind of drug that was used. Like, it's so disgusting. Ladies, please don't chase after men. And if you've turned a man down once, twice, 3 times, please don't. No, it's disgusting. It's a red flag. A no is a full sentence, and you shouldn't have to explain yourself. The spice is just, it's boring. It's male-centered. It's male gaze-centered. It's just really, there's nothing there. I rated this spice a -1. I personally don't find abusive men sexy. So even there's a couple of other scenes that may be a little bit, one maybe that may be a little bit more spicy, but then the final spice scene is disgusting. It's not, I know a lot of people say grape scene. That's not sexy. That's not sexy. I don't want to read about that. It was very sexually violent and scary for Lily, and disgusting. And the fact that she married him, ignoring all the red flags and just going with the flow and getting caught up in it. I mean, I know that that's, how people get themselves into these relationships, because the men don't start out overtly. It's all very kind of coercive and kind of like, oh, he was just joking, or he didn't mean it, or, Ryle has such a sad story. I'm sorry, ladies, but it's not your responsibility to do the emotional work for damaged men, and it's not your responsibility to save them. It's their work to do. Please don't do it for them. Yes, Ryle has a very sad story, but you know what? Everybody has a sad story. Everybody has trauma. She had trauma. That's why, they obviously fell in love, which is a really sad thing. Lily really needed a good trauma-informed therapist. I know there's not many out there. They're very far and few between. Like, the best ones I've found have just been online. Like, trying to find a trauma-informed therapist in real life is pretty difficult. But I didn't like that there was a love triangle. That trope to me is just so overplayed. It's so boring. Why? Why, Hoover? Why are you following in, Twilight's footsteps with this whole silly love triangle that really didn't need to be? Like I said, if the story focused on Lily and Atlas, that would have been one thing, but it didn't. So anyway, I'm going to say that this whole video, spoiler alert, so hopefully you've already read the book, but major spoiler alert right now. If you get pregnant with an abusive man's child, it doesn't end with you. It doesn't end with us, meaning you and your baby. It doesn't, especially if at the end of the book where you see that Ryle comes and picks up, or she's dropping the baby off with Ryle. No, that father should not be having unsupervised visits with his child. Yes, it's his child. However, he has blackout rages where he doesn't know what he's done. And that's always his excuse. I didn't mean it. I didn't know. He literally blacks out, and that's when he hurts Lily. He is not in control of his emotions, his behavior. He has no emotional intelligence. He has no control, okay? He has no emotional competence, and he is a toxic male.